Rightio, just make sure this has actually got some voice on it as well, because there's nothing worse than doing that. Yep, we're good. Rightio, so we're gonna move on with Bryce's recall, okay? So obviously, he is still super externally motivated, like just distracted, like nothing else. But what we want to do is start giving him a bit more freedom. And how we do that is with a long line. So highly recommend. I'm going to tell you guys that you'll probably need one of these to starve. They're 39 bucks or whatever, I think, but they're worth their weight in gold, especially for practicing this sort of stuff. Especially for the circumstances where you do, or he does get out the front. If he's dragging this, you can regain control a lot easier. Okay. So firstly, don't be practicing recall unless you can guarantee the outcome. So therefore, low distraction, low distance or short distance, okay, to start off with in the backyard. Simple. Very hard for a dog to fail that recall. We want to make it more challenging, increase the distance, use a long line. If we want to make it more challenging, do the thing in the front yard. So a little bit of distraction, right, on a long line. Until we can do it at the dog park, right? And he's coming to us religiously. But essentially, these are the baby steps that people rush through, and it is really important not to, okay? So, what this looks like is, lead handling is pretty important in this, okay? So this is the dead end of the lead, because it's not being used, okay? This is the live end of the lead, because it is, and essentially we want to try and keep the live end of the lead off the ground. So you can have him run it out like that, okay? And then when he comes back towards us without pulling as such, well, or popping, okay, you can pop. Pop is better than a pull. We want to try and gather that lead in our spare hand as we reel it in, okay? If we're doing a recall, it's going to be challenging to do it like that, okay? And it is okay to drop the lead in that circumstance and just be managing the live end, okay? But we want to keep the live end off the ground, okay? And it is going to look it is challenging, right? You've got to practice this, right? It's not easy. So, pretty well. Bryce is already adequately distracted. I don't really need to do much to do that. But what I'm going to do is just keep him going this way. Apologies for the mower. Bryce, come! Increasing the distance or moving away from him. Free! Getting him to get, oh, that food drive's increased so much. So good, right? So as we're gathering the lead, we are walking back from him. When he gets to us, we want to use a piece of food to put him into a sit, or we can just tell him to sit, okay? But we'll see. We can do both. Don't know what his sits are like. But again, he's distracted. Bryce, come! As he starts to get closer, I actually might use some leash pressure to put him into the sit. Ah! Free! Good boy! Woohoo! Good job, buddy. So again, this is very similar to what you would have learned last week. However, increasing the distance, making it a little bit more challenging for him, okay? So again, as he gets away from us, we say his name. We want that reflexive response, so he acknowledges us. If he doesn't acknowledge us, we can say his name again, okay? Ideally, not more than twice though. But yeah, we can say his name twice. He looks at us. When he's looking at us, we can then recall, okay? You are effectively checking his hearing, whether his ears are on, by using his name, because there's always that, with that name game, that positive association and creating that reflexive response, he actually doesn't have a choice if he can hear you. Like, his mind just goes, food, right? That's pretty well what he does. Anyway, cool. So, more reps, more reps. Again, this is something pretty simple, but practicing it with your food or his daily food allocation is also quite critical at getting a really reliable behavior, because he learns that he has to work for his food, and yeah, that's just a good skill for a dog. Bryce, come! Again, reeling him in. Ah! sit needs some work. Free! Okay, using, oh, good boy. And that reward, the release is important. The reward doesn't have to be instantaneous. We do need to make sure that there's reward, ideally within 1 to 2 seconds, but it can be challenging. So just as soon as possible, obviously. The dog has the association to the terminal marker, which is free, that reward will come. Okay, do a couple more reps just to show you again. Bryce, come! Sit! Free! Woohoo! Really get him driving into that food reward. Woo, increases. So the motivation you get to get the reward is the motivation you're going to get to do the behavior, okay? Or it definitely has a correlation. Bryce, come! Didn't need to use pressure there. Sit. Free! So it could be better to actually use a food-based reward lure for him instead of using pressure. Okay, it's all a learning curve. Bryce, come! Lure him in. Free! As soon as his bum hits the ground, we want to release and give him that. Oh, mate, I was just roughing you up. Sorry, I know. It's scary, isn't it, hey? You're a good boy. You're a good boy, Bryce. Hey? You're a good boy, aren't you? Cool. Some dogs love that rough up style play. Obviously others may have had a traumatic past, maybe not. We don't know Bryce's past, so who knows. To really level up with this, you can also use the food as a distraction. Bryce! So we can do that. Bryce, come! Get him to go into a sit. Sit! Free! And then take him over here to find this food that you just threw over as a distraction, okay? Make sure he does clean that up every rep, because otherwise you might have some challenging reps. Very good. Couple more. Oops. Manage your lead. Bryce, come! That was an easy one. He was looking at me. Hey. Free! Good boy. Very good. He's doing good. Bryce, come! Sit. Sit. If he doesn't do it, we use compulsion and push him into it. Free! Star Wars soundtrack is also important with the that sort of stuff. Just jokes. That's just habit. Essentially, yeah, keep that up. Also, like if we next step on this is using pressure to increase that drive and desire. So when we say his name and he turns and then we say come, we give it 1 to 2 seconds and then we can use a pop on the lead, okay? At the moment we're sort of pulling him in anyway, but if we use a pop, what will happen is it's called escape avoidance. So essentially the dog's like, oh, I want to beat that little pop there, so I'm going to be faster, right? And we have to give them the opportunity to beat it as well. Apologies if that mower's super loud. Hopefully I don't have to re-record it even. But yeah, if we can lay that pop in, so I'll get a bit closer and see if I can give you an example of that. Bryce, come! Sit! Free! Right, so that was a pretty good example. Again, these are just layering. Once you're pretty comfortable with doing the first thing, move on to the next. Again, this is sort of this homework, although I'm giving it to you this week, this is going to be the next couple of weeks of homework. Essentially, more proofing, increasing distance, increasing distractions, layering that pressure, making the behavior really reliable before we ever have to use it in an emergency sort of situation. So at the end of the day, if he can drag this lead around out in the front yard and stuff like that, fantastic. I'd definitely advise that. But yeah, hey, he's coming a long way, aren't you, buddy? Hey, your food drive's better, even your name game's better. He's doing good. 2 or 3 times, well, geez, if you can do it every day, even better, but at least every second day, please. Yeah, keep that food reward, follow those steps, increase the difficulty as you desire, keep it up.